Welcome to Swadeshi Silicon, the podcast that is your backstage pass to India's deep tech scene. I am Divya Kothamasu, founder and CEO of Enspace Tech, an aerospace and defense company, and your host. Join us as we decode India's semiconductors, space tech, aerospace and defense hardware, AI, and the power of Make in India. From labs to launchpad, from classrooms to clean rooms, let's build the future here in India. In the very first episode, let's decode semiconductors in India. I'm very honored to be joined by Dr.Madhumita Chakravarthi and Mr.Madhav Kumar, both of whom have served India for decades as scientists and engineers at DRDO. I have immense respect for their contributions to the nation's technological progress. Together, we will explore the role of semiconductors across commercial, aerospace, and defense sectors and what it takes for India to truly become self-reliant in this critical domain. Dr. Madhumita Chakravarthi and Mr. Madhav Kumar, thank you so much for joining me today here. To start with, what first drew you to enter into this world of semiconductors and defense technology?
Actually, at the onset, let me see. I'm also very thankful that you invited me here. Actually, for me, that semiconductor technology, my interest in semiconductor technology started in a very different way. Initially, we have designed system for Akash missile, and it was it has gone through developmental trials, and it was successfully proven. And then production started.
Okay.
And when doing the production, we have seen that whatever we have used for the design, none of the semiconductor devices were available in the market.
In India?
Not in India. Semiconductor anyway we import. Okay. But none of the semiconductor devices which we used during the development were available in the market.
For production?
For production.
Okay.
So what we did is we thought that this can happen in future also, and we may need this Akash missile for long term for using. So there we started that we should do our own system on chipsets. Okay. So there we started the chip design, and we discussed with foundry, and then we got their process design kit, and we have developed we designed our own SoCs. So this is for production. So this is the way it started, and finally we have done many things. We have done GaN-based power amplifiers also. So it started like that.
Yes. Sir, your journey, how it all started?
The outset, initially, let me thank you to be part of this first episode of the podcast.
It's our pleasure, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Initially not by really choice, because when I joined DRDO as a fresh scientist, we don't have a choice to choose a particular technology. But there was a somewhere little deep inclination for me for the VLSI even before knowing much about it. So it was good that accidentally I got into a DRDO laboratory which was actually completely focused on the VLSI design.
Okay.
So the DRDO has a laboratory called Anurag, so which was had been into the VLSI in the very initial stages of the VLSI technology development in India. So in fact, before I joined itself, the Anurag had a 32-bit RISC processor was designed. And when I joined, initially I joined the digital IC design team. So very early years, I got an opportunity to do an end-to-end VLSI. So being a government organization, so we had an opportunity to do the things from the scratch and experience completely up to the chip design and testing, which is not generally possible in the private, which people work in a particular domain of this. So initially I started working on a digital signal processor, a 16-bit DSP processor design, and then couple of digital ASICs I designed. Later on, when I was doing the digital IC design, one of my colleagues was trying to do analog IC design, but there were few challenges, and it drew my interest into the analog IC design, but I could not really take it up. I got an opportunity to pursue my master's in IIT Bombay, sponsored by DRDO. So there actually I pursued the analog IC and RF IC design. My master's project was an analog IC design, and management was supportive to start the analog IC design team. So I started the analog IC design team in Anurag, and we grew up as a good team, and it's continued into the VLSI. So it was a very good journey to be into the semiconductor IC design. And
How many years ago did that happen, sir? When you started the team? How many
analog
years
IC design team I started in 2007.
Okay. How big is the team now?
The team grew almost up to 15 members.
Okay.
And
It's completely active now and is.
There was a little bit restructuring, but the team is active.
Okay. Great to know, sir. Thank you. And India is pushing hard to become self-reliant in semiconductors. What do you think is pushing this momentum?
So the driving force initially for the self-reliance on semiconductor, it is both strategic and economic motivation for India. Especially when there was a COVID-19 situation, we understood that we are completely dependent on imports for the semiconductor devices and technology. So even at that time, the manufacturing and communication equipment, defense, space, everybody suffered because we didn't have anything with us. So there the main motivation came, and then this Indian semiconductor mission was it came into light. It came to light in 2021. And another thing is we have a huge pool of talented manpower in chip design and all that. So with all that, we understood, yes, semiconductor manufacturing is very much possible in India, and why not start it?
Yes.
Okay, though we are a bit late, but with government push and government support, definitely we can go ahead.
Yeah, as Madam pointed out, it is both strategic and economic. So India now emerging as a third highest economic country. So being $1 trillion economy, in fact, no country can actually offer to not to have enough space in the semiconductor. So it is actually key technology for either an IT or tomorrow in an emerging area like AI. Unless you have the base for the semiconductor, otherwise you may have a presence, but you will not have a really deeper presence.
Yes.
And you need to really depend on the imports. So that is the reason India actually is taking up, but it's a bit late and also a long journey. And there are multiple disciplines.
Yes.
So it is so requires a huge investments.
Yes.
So it is, but it is compulsory for such a big country, such a big economy to have this.
Yes, not just in terms of aerospace and defense, right? Even if we want to build something like ChatGPT or something that China had built, anything commercial
solution, AI/ML based solution, or any other communication, simple communication, simple commercial items, everything is now based on electronics and semiconductors. Yes.
So, be it commercial or aerospace or
Yes.
defense, we need to have this in-house.
Yes.
So, that necessity is there, right?
Yes.
No human being without using electronics now, and the electronics is the base, is the semiconductor.
Yeah. And self-reliance in that is at most
Essential,
importance
yes.
at this point. Yes. When it comes to semiconductors, where are we in terms of the fabrication, design and all, especially in comparison with US or China? So what are our current strengths and what are the gaps that we have in this field?
So Indian semiconductor industry, it is just started evolving.
Yes.
Okay. If you see the chip design area, almost like 20% of global engineers working on chip design are Indians. Okay. So Intel has set up their biggest chip design center in Bangalore outside USA. Then Qualcomm and many other people, they have set up R&D center and chip design center, basically fabless chip design in India. So we have a very strong talent pool in this area. But when it comes to process engineering, it is a deep maturity is required in that. Okay, so there we will lag, and definitely once you start, it is not like just you buy some machine and it will work. It is not like that. You have to develop that skill set. That maturity is required. This I have seen when I was working in CMSDS, and we were trying to set up the fabrication process. It took us almost like 5-6 iterations to finalize the process flow.
Okay.
So that skill set has to be developed, which is not that is the gap here. Okay.
So when it comes to design, we have
are
good
fine.
talent.
We
but
have
when
good
it comes
talent.
to production or
Yes.
manufacturing and
Yes.
engineering,
Yes.
the actual semiconductor,
Yes,
we are
even
lagging in that part.
manufacturing, servicing,
Yeah.
there we
We need more.
more maturity.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Yes.
In terms of the design, certainly we have a huge expertise. Probably there are few chips where Indians are not involved and which is available in the market. Almost every chip which is actually the Indians are directly or indirectly involved.
Yes.
The Indian companies are very successful in terms of the services which is actually offered to the multinational companies. So there are so many startups and Indian companies which are able to do. But unfortunately, we don't have any company like Analog Devices or TI, so where we have a portfolio of the chips. So, and from the manufacturing point of view, the government has been trying to set up a few government setups like Semiconductor Complex Limited, SCL Chandigarh. So we have a now 180 nanometer technology which is actually established, and it is actually serving the both strategic and also few commercial applications. And in space also there are few chips are actually manufactured by the Semiconductor Complex Limited is being used. And similarly, we have a manufacturing facility in the Hyderabad gallium arsenide technology, GATEC, so which also provides a lot of strategic chips in the RF and millimeter wave ICs. And we
SSPL is also doing
SSPL actually do the lot of designs. So they have few designs certainly, but these technologies are relatively older technologies which requires upgradations, and there are efforts to upgrade these technologies. In terms of the private manufacturing, there are a lot of efforts, and we have been hearing few news now, and hopefully soon we are going to have a fabrication technologies, maybe in the latest technologies, at least 16 nanometer kind of technologies. Main challenge is when we go to the lower technologies like 16 nanometer chips, kind of the CMOS technologies. These fabs are very expensive, and also the production volume is going to be very high unless there are enough number of designs which are actually supplied. Okay, so the fab cannot sustain. Okay, so for that the design support is also required. So the who can actually do the designs on our own, not just services. So we should be able to do our products and provide to the fab. And so today the wafer size is actually the 12-inch wafer, and the typical designs, like suppose you take a Bluetooth kind of IC. So in one wafer you get few millions of chips. So unless you have that kind of consumption, so the economically it is actually becomes not viable.
Not viable.
So there are few fabs where probably India can focus, is actually in the one in RF and second in the EV sector. So the EV sector, which is actually we require an SiC kind of GaN over the SiC kind of fabs. These are relatively less investment, probably few 100 crores to the few thousands of crores. And also we have an EV market which is actually emerging.
Yes.
So, and we are actually largely going to depend on the imports. So here the opportunity is actually there, and also similarly the RFICs which are actually used both in the commercial applications and the strategic applications. The GaN technology is also a viable technology. So the government has taken few steps. Hopefully the few private firms also come forward and to establish this kind of apps which are actually commercially feasible.
Okay. So in terms of market size, if India alone cannot meet that market size to meet the fabrication capacity to make it viable, we should also concentrate on the foreign, we should also concentrate on the global markets, right? So we need to build chips in India for India and also for the entire globe. So if we keep that in also into consideration in such a way that we export the things also, then maybe like just how other countries are surviving with their fabrications, we
yes.
can also survive maybe.
It's true. So we require many more designs companies which can actually focus on the products.
And it's
Okay.
always evolving. Like semiconductor market is such that today's design is not valid tomorrow. It's very fast upgradation is there. So we have to cope up with that also.
Okay.
Of course, some basic chips are always there. You can
Yes.
sustain with that, but there also, if you want to go for global market, yes, you have to take care of that also.
Okay. If someone wants to start in the semiconductor business today, where should they start with? Maybe fabless design or IP designs or assembly testing, marking and packaging. Where should they start?
So, well, there is an opportunity for all the four. So, and where the company really wanted to, what is their roadmap actually? Okay. So, if the company's roadmap is to give a product which they can be actually the fabless, there is no need to really the fab. But if they wanted to get into the manufacturing, so certainly the assembly and packaging is the first step, because as we discussed, the setting up of a fab is actually by startup is almost near to the very difficult.
Yes.
So certainly, but there is a lot of government support if they wanted to do the assembly part and the packaging. There are a lot of opportunities in the packaging. In fact, there are few companies in India which are actually having a success in packaging, like companies like Spell, which is there in Chennai. They actually do the packaging, assembly, and also the packaging for the startups. And there is a lot of encouragement from the government in terms of providing the capital equipment investment from the government. So if they have the prior experience in the packaging, so that also is actually a very good opportunity. And IP development is certainly going to be very good opportunity, both in terms of analog and digital. Analog, there is an opportunity because every new node requires a fresh development of the IP. So as the new technologies evolves, so the people need to develop these IPs into it has to be designed from the scratch, from the transistor level. So there is an opportunity. But I personally, I feel need of the hour is actually to focus on our own chips as a products. And so someone courageous enough actually should take it up that as this one. And second is wherever there is a limited opportunities for the manufacturing, so where the companies can invest little higher amounts, so they can actually focus on the packaging. And also, as we discussed in the manufacturing, like EV kind of technologies,
commercial kind,
technologies where actually we can actually do that. Okay, so the product design, as we have the complete talent, so the main challenge is technically we may be able to do, but we will not be able to do the marketing. So that is where actually the Indian companies actually should
focus on
marketing of the product.
Yeah, ma'am. If some startup wants to start with, what do you think is the first step? Where should they start with?
So startup basically, see, a lot of capital investment is required for any of these things. So for startups, I'll suggest that you start with the chip design. Of course, EDA tools and other things are needed, but now government is supporting for all this. And next is you talk about this ATMP. That also can be started, but problem is in that you need a very good clean room complex for that.
Yeah, maybe 100 class.
100 class, sometimes 10 class also. Yes, 100 class is minimum required. Okay. So if you have to maintain that, then the HVAC system has to run 24/7, and then the complete support you need. It's not like you need electricity, you need the chemicals. Like you should have a complete ecosystem of the chemicals, whatever is needed, and even the drainage system, because a lot of chemicals have to be drained out Okay, so those type of infrastructure is needed. So ATMP is also challenging for the startups. And yes, so what they can do is now India, some companies are getting the fab in India. So startups can collaborate with these people and then start the serious chip designs. So depending on whatever is getting set up. Initially, they can start with global foundries. Some foundries they can do and get the skill set
Established.
developed. Okay, even ATMP also, if they collaborate with the global foundries, they can set up here, and subsequently they can move to our own fab and all that.
Completely
Yes.
independent thing.
Yes, yes.
So there are opportunities in terms of making a wafers. So these
Yeah.
are the few opportunities actually. If they have the good background, they can actually explore. And there are the opportunities in the MEMS design. So which again don't really require probably less than 100 crores kind of thing.
Yeah.
So like Madam was telling, there are few specific diodes which Madam has worked. So these are really doesn't require that kind of funding actually, huge funding. So the MEMS design, and then the silicon photonics is also another emerging area.
Yes.
So all these technologies which actually don't have the chips which we used in the CMOS requires a huge investment.
setup.
So
Huge
these are
investment.
actually
Okay.
But this can be done.
So
Yes,
as
yes,
a
we can.
starting point, we can start with
If
these kind.
somebody wants to set up the fab, yes,
Okay.
we can
Okay.
start with that.
Otherwise, fabless will be a first
Yeah,
step.
yes.
Can be a first step.
Yes.
And then
ATMP also can be
ATMP
done.
collaborating with some foreign
foreign.
entities as an
Yes.
entry point, and then eventually leading to our own
Okay.
self thing. Okay. How realistic is it for a startup to build a chip manufacturing capabilities in India today?
A chip fabrication facility for a startup is not a very realistic proposal, because it needs huge funding, and also it is not that everything is available within the country. You need you need lot of global collaboration, and it has to be from the government, because many things like instruments and then raw material, everything will not be available in a single country. It's not possible. Okay, so through government you have to talk to different countries where it is available, and also all these things are required. Okay, so for startup it's really difficult. Yeah.
Sir, what's your opinion on this?
Yeah, it's true. I mean, how you define the startup? Okay. If a startup brings a multi-billion-dollar, and yeah, it is feasible. And also, if they come with the lot of background in the semiconductor manufacturing
Yes.
technology. So chip design, yes, we have a lot of talent pool, but as Madam was pointing
Capital
out,
will be
actually, not just capital, we don't have the talent pool within the country for the
Yeah.
manufacturing. So there were few efforts recently. I was also told like a few students were sent to the Taiwan and to get a first-hand experience on the little bit of the manufacturing, and also few institutions are now trying to train the people on the manufacturing part of it. So we are generally good at logical thinking, mathematics, and things like
The
that.
design part, whatever
Design part
design
of it.
part,
But
yes.
when it comes to the fab, you actually need a hands-on, and also you need to.
It's not really thinking and not theoretical. Theoretical, you may know everything, all flow, but finally it depends on how you do it.
When it comes to execution level,
Yes.
how
Yes.
much skill
the
do we have?
challenges in terms
It's
of
very
safety.
sensitive.
Yes.
things.
Yeah.
So, but if someone has a background, yes, but as we were discussing, not probably the prime technologies of semiconductor technologies, but there are technologies which are maybe older, like even in 180 nanometer, there are a few technologies which are actually having a multiple applications. So where EV is one market, solar is another market. We are actually putting a lot of money in the solar. There are few companies trying to do the solar cell in India. So but there is an opportunity to fabricate the solar cells, and the high voltage requirements in the electrical. So these kind of chips manufacturing probably can be thought about it.
So, can you please share some companies that or startups that are doing meaningful work in this space?
So let me start something in this space related to space technologies. Okay, you being a CEO for the space.
Thank
Okay.
you.
So it's a little less known company. It's a company called Luminasic. So these people are having a good expertise in the image technologies.
Okay.
So they have a complete expertise in the image, both the visible and IR. We have a payloads in the space which is used MWIR, LWIR, and also the event-driven cameras. So they have the proven experience in designing the complete chip within the India, and also they have provided the few chips to the ISRO, which actually is getting into the space. So they have a complete know-how of the making a complete FPA. So, but still they are also has to come with their own products. Right now, they are still trying to make products either to foreign companies, but so they are actually trying to get into their own product design into the LiDAR and event-driven cameras actually. So there is another company which I can actually. There are quite a few companies which are having a decent success in terms of the chip design as a product. I'm not talking about the services. Services we have a lot of companies which actually grown up in a very big companies.
Okay.
So I'm not really talking about companies like Moss Chips, Optronics. They have actually grown up very big in terms of the scaled up in terms of the services. Each company is having few thousands of VLSI engineers.
Okay.
So another company which is actually had a decent success in the chip design is we can think about the Sankhya Technologies. So they have a SDR. So which has actually done, and then we have another company in Hyderabad which has actually developed a their own DSP core, which is actually they are developing some AI applications, and companies like Incor and
IIT Madras based also.
IIT Madras based Incor, they have done a good work on the RISC-V processor based technologies. But also in the defense side, the companies like Astra has made the chips into the GaN chips.
GaN, gallium arsenide, RFICs, and
So
SOCs.
the other companies, are they concentrating on silicon?
Silicon.
So when it comes to GaN or gas, Astra and few other companies are there. Okay.
And that also, like they are doing a chip design,
Okay.
and foundries are global foundries. They are
Okay.
getting it done.
Okay.
Recently, the companies like Fermionic is also doing the good work, and there are quite a few companies are trying to do AI-based chips. Okay, so there is a Kinara AI, another Hyderabad-based company, which they have done an AI chip, but recently it was acquired by NXP. Okay, so there are companies, but size in terms of number of companies, if you compare with the US, probably we are not even 1/10 of it.
Okay.
So this kind of companies in US, probably in Silicon Valley, you may find few hundreds of companies actually. So probably we have around 20-25 companies which are having a decent success, but very few companies who are actually sold, as I said, actually, unless you sell few millions of chips, you are not really into the product. When you are really not into the product, or you focus on a very premium market like a space where you actually sell few chips, but still it is a market viable because each payload cost, a space grade component costs very huge. So there, even if you are able to make few hundred chips, that is actually enough.
So in this regard, actually, as you mentioned, we lack as a whole, we lack in the marketing thing. So when it comes to commercial, since we need to sell it to the whole thing, different countries to get it viable. Maybe we'll have to hype up or
scale up our marketing strategies.
Market, it is one chip to initial success is easy. But when you really wanted to get into a very reliable product, you can actually sell it without any problems. that requires multiple iterations.
Yes.
So the multiple iterations of the fabrication is the main challenge.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the huge amounts of capital should also go, so that we call it as a patient capital. So until everything is accepted, we'll have to keep on putting the capital into the thing.
Yes.
Yeah. IP protection is the major concern in semiconductors. So when it comes to R&D or developing a chip, years of R&D work will go into that, and millions of investment will go into developing one chip. But there were cases in earlier where this IP was stolen, and mass production of the chips were taken place, which incurred huge losses on the company that had actually invested on the R&D. So how can one protect their IP in such high stakes industry?
It happens because see, when we do the chip design, we have to see we have to give this to the foundry.
Yes.
Okay, and for chip design, we spend hours and hours together, and so many people will be working. But when we give it to the foundry, they always have the design, though it is executable file, but still. But then now people started putting some sort of signature into each design.
Okay.
So if you find that somebody else is using your design, in some way you can find that this design has been used.
Okay.
So that is the only way, but it is not really a foolproof system till.
Okay. So
There
it
is
still
always
has
a
its own challenges.
Yes.
to
It is
protect
very
the IP.
challenging
Okay.
to protect your own design.
Okay. So
That is the reason main thing that each foundry has their own IC design people, means setup, complete R&D setup and IC design setup, and that never goes out.
Okay.
They are doing it in their own foundry.
So from end to end, if
Yes.
one company is having,
Yes. So it can be protected.
And
Yeah. So as Madam said, actually, fully copying the design using a brute force method, difficult to stop it. So the reverse engineering methodologies is actually to take the layer by layer information and trying to replicate. But the transistors, which are very key technologies, even if you actually try to copy them as a layer by layer, unless you go to the same fab, you will not be able to remanufacturing, because the transistor parameters are actually going to change. But design certainly can be copied. So suppose you have some unique aspect of the design, so it can actually be copied. And IPs also can be stolen in the soft IP level.
Yes.
So the soft IP level, at least things like encryption and all is going to certainly help, and good practices in the company that where my soft IP is not stolen either by insiders or this one. But the brute force method of layer by layer information using, because the imaging technologies are getting advanced, so they are actually negatively used. So these imaging technologies are used brute forcefully to copy the designs. Certainly few techniques like keeping a signatures kind of things helps, but they don't really stop.
But then, as he said, that process also, it depends on the process, because each foundry has their own process, and that is the established process.
okay.
So other foundry, exactly same process, they will not be able to develop.
Okay.
So it differs little bit.
Okay. So what core skills and knowledge areas should a student be focusing on in terms of semiconductor industry if they want to do some meaningful work in this industry? What are the skills that they should develop?
Actually, see, first for semiconductor technology, a student should understand the main basics of electronics engineering very well. Basics should be very, very clear. And then comes the microelectronics and the device physics. So microelectronics, device physics should be understood by everybody, means who wants to work on this field. And then comes the actual hands-on experience on EDA tools or sort of like TCAD tools. Many companies, they provide these Cadence, Siemens, Synopsys.
Yes.
So those tools you can use and you can design. But main thing is like basics should be very clear.
Yeah, foundation must be
very strong.
So that we can build on it. Since it is very complex field,
Right.
the foundations must be strong.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So what do you think?
Yeah, there are few jobs which are actually more of a skill oriented, so which are actually driven by the EDA tools. So the students can actually the focus this kind of jobs by learning the synthesis and backend tools for the digital IC design. So there are enough opportunities nowadays to learn both in terms of the post college institutions, and also even the nowadays a lot of engineering colleges introducing these kind of courses, and the colleges are having this access to the tools which are actually given by the government. So these things actually can be learned as a skills, but of course the base should be strong. And there are other things on the design part. So the design part, when it comes to the digital, they should be very strong into the digital design fundamentals, which they do probably in their second year or third year courses. And also the inclination should be there to build in a hardware. So here, so we write a code like a software, but here intention is not a software. So you should have a view of actually the hardware. So that will actually help. And another area they can actually focus is actually the analog and RFIC design. And analog and RFIC design requires a much more stronger skills compared to the digital IC design. So they should have a strong basics in terms of the transistor and also the physics. So
device physics, basically.
Device physics. And also there are opportunities, as we said, now the new companies which are going to come in terms of the manufacturing. So there is a lot of scope in getting into the process, understanding the technology, semiconductor technology, how the manufacturing technology, and so there are opportunities to design our own new devices. There are at least in IITs and IISc. So there are few professors work on developing our own new designs, and even the strategic laboratories like DRDO, ISRO. So we have a lot of opportunities to work our own detectors for the image detectors, which we have actually discussed, and the areas like silicon photonics, which is also emerging. So there is a lot of focus for both the physics people, optical people, and the semiconductor. All the three actually get together. And another area is the MEMS, MOEMs. So these are all the areas where mechanical,
even chemistry is involved.
Chemistry is involved.
Yes.
So
Yes.
so there is an opportunity for all these people as the new companies are actually emerging. So the design is relatively simple. Opportunities are also more, but of course it's a competitive field. So one has to be a little more hardworking and do. But manufacturing side, so if there are new opportunities are there, certainly there is a scope. And people have the scope for the R&D if they want to do the PhD. Also there is a lot of scope.
So now that India is also concentrating more on the manufacturing part, students, I think that demand will come in the future. So students must also be prepared from their part for this upcoming boom in semiconductors. So if they want to be ready for that manufacturing, what are the skills that they need to develop?
Actually, good news is that we know that this manufacturing part is coming to India. So many universities, they are gearing up to this. Like I want to say IISc has started one MTech course on semiconductor technology in collaboration with the Taiwanese university. Okay. So this is one means initiative. And then IIT Kharagpur, IIT Delhi, and Delhi University, Calcutta University, and other IITs, they have these microelectronics courses they offer, and they have a lot of research initiatives they have taken. And Shah Institute, Calcutta University, IISc, they have this manufacturing, semiconductor manufacturing machines.
Okay.
And though only for the research purpose, but they can be like prototype lab.
Okay.
Like they can take like initial stages, they can take interns and PhD students, or maybe they can offer some courses to the graduates, those who are interested. And those are there, they can get an hands-on experience by working there.
Okay. And more universities should also set up labs.
These labs. Some of the private universities also taking up Actually, they are also initiating.
How can India build a robust ecosystem in design, developing, and testing?
Okay, India has a good pool of talented, engineers who can work on fabulous design and even on packaging and all. They have started learning, and once this manufacturing fabrication comes to India, it has to be like collaborative approach. It has to be industry academia collaboration. Academia can take initiative in training all these people, and many of the universities have the fab process, clean rooms, and everything. So they can start this internship programs, projects they can give to different people, mini projects and all. Through that, these people can learn. And also we should collaborate with the foreign foundries and get them here, or send our students there to learn this process. So this is one of the way. What do you feel? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. So we have enough talent in terms of the design. As we discussed, actually, the people should come forward to focus more onto the products. So there is a opportunity for the private people, and the collaborations, international level collaborations, they should actually focus on product design. Government has actually taken a lot of initiatives in terms of funding the chip as a product. So there was a scheme which is actually from the Ministry of the IT and Electronics, the scheme called the Design Link Incentives. So recently they concluded the first version of the scheme, so which was actually funding a company up to 50% of the design and manufacturing cost for a chip design as a product. And there are a few schemes in terms of manufacturing, providing a few aspects of the capital equipment in the subsidy, up to 50% of the subsidy, which is actually given to set up the either manufacturing companies for this. And also there are incentives is given in terms of the post sales. So in terms of the sales, the incremental annual sales, actually the 5 to 6% of the sales which has actually is been reimbursed. So these are the few schemes, and there are quite a few private funding agencies are also coming forward to fund the deep tech companies. Yes. So though it is actually the much less. So the students, especially now the younger generation, wanted to do the startups instead of just focusing only on the IT or other thing. They should also get into the deep tech, where it is involved realizing the complete product actually. So unless we break that barrier, so we will be always end up as a service providers to the this one.
So now that you have mentioned about the students' interest also, if you see most of the students, almost major percent of the students, they are willing to go into the CSC field or IT, and very few are coming into these
actual engineering.
Yeah, do you think this is the actual scenario that is happening?
It is happening because there are very few students are getting an opportunities. So the Indian ecosystem, though there is a good amount of manufacturing in terms of the, thanks to DRDO, ISRO, there is a lot of electronics companies actually evolved within Hyderabad, Bangalore, even other parts of the India. But still there are very few companies which can actually absorb compared to the IT actually.
Yes. Since the market is high in that, the students are also interested to go in that field.
Because finally they need to get a job.
Yes. So if the market size is bigger, if we are
definitely
able to increase the market size of this deep tech, then the students will also be obviously interested in coming into this entering.
So that is where the student thinking should start now. How do they create a jobs? So instead of just being a job.
Yeah, instead of going into service sector, if we are also concentrating
on the products,
right? Then students should also, as you mentioned, they should also think in coming into this creating job
their own product.
Own products. And
one more thing here I want to mention. to develop a strong ecosystem, we need to have the raw materials also.
Yes.
You know, in semiconductor fabrication, purity of the material is very important, and that much purity of the material is not available here. So there also we should concentrate on getting different chemicals with that purity. That is very important. So that is also one of the scope means where people can start.
Yes, every gap, maybe as you mentioned, one chemical, if we do not know, there is a scope for one company to
Yes,
get established in that.
Absolutely.
So every gap can create every separate company or separate domain
Yes,
here in
yes,
India.
yes.
Since we are in the very earlier stage, so there will be so many gaps, which means there are so many opportunities to build new
yes,
companies.
Yes.
Yes.
Because we are economically becoming stronger. So
Yes.
that should be taken as an opportunity.
Yes.
Probably this could not be taken 10 years back because we were not imagining this kind of funding support both from the government and private. Now there are opportunities, and even my feeling is like even the venture capitalists also should start funding more and more deep tech companies than actually the other service companies.
Even
actually.
public-private partnership also
Public-private
should
partnerships are also
come up.
possible.
Yes.
Should possible. There are so many other government funding schemes like in space is actually has brought out a scheme called Technology Adaptation Fund. So where actually they would like to fund the 60% of the fund up to for the development of any space related technologies.
Okay.
And similarly, we have an IDEX which is actually supporting all the
Defense
startups,
stage,
defense startups. So the students, there are many students are coming forward. DRDO conducts every year the student idea contest,
Yes.
where there is a good idea is actually supported in collaboration with the DRDO or in collaboration with the industry as a defense products. So there are certain such opportunities students can make use of.
Yes, even in space, it established a lab in Ahmedabad,
Yes.
and they are actually giving at very minimal price for testing and designing and all. If any startup approaches them, they offer this testing and designing
Guiding,
softwares, guidance,
guiding
and
them.
everything at a very minimal price. So government is also encouraging in that establishment of
Various
facilities
ways.
and all various ways. Yes. So we see like people from various domains, they switch domains without any background in that domain, but still they are very successful. There are many people who built great startups or great businesses without prior knowledge in that domain. So what is your advice to someone who want to start in this domain without prior knowledge but deep interest?
Yeah, the last word answers it. So if there is a deep interest, it is nothing is
Anything is
impossible.
possible.
So certainly I can actually quote one or two cases where I actually personally interacted with the people who are not really having any academic background in terms of the microelectronics or chip design activity, but they are actually making a good contribution in this. I came across one company in Pune. They are into the assembly and supporting the space technologies for the assembly. So recently, so this particular person, I'm not sure whether I can quote his name, but his name is Bosley. So with his interaction, I understood that he has developed a lot of interest, and he went to the US, trained himself in terms of the packaging, and he is establishing the LTCC facility now for supporting this one. And went to an extent, some of the instruments which are actually used for the packaging, he developed on his own. So it's not just importing. So it's actually, those are the equipments which are actually developed within the country by them. So he said, actually, he told me actually he has spent a few months together. He travels to the US and spend with the companies and develop the knowledge. So if there is a deep interest, certainly it is possible, and today the ecosystem also supports that.
Yeah.
And another company which actually there is an interesting podcast, if someone wanted to listen in YouTube, I recently heard it actually. So this person actually started his career as a watch repairer. For 50 rupees he was actually repairing the watch, and he actually today has set up the assembly facilities for the camera assembly, and so he has a very good assembly in Andhra Pradesh, and he is actually talking about setting up of the semiconductor fab, and
Oh my
his
God.
background is in the commerce. He is not
Oh,
even
wow.
science. His background is in the commerce.
Okay.
Okay,
So that deep interest counts. Yes.
So he is he in fact had one of the mobile manufacturing earlier. So certainly there are opportunities in terms of the entrepreneurship if anyone has a deep interest.
Yes, yes. Great to know the stories. What would your call to action be for listeners who want to build, learn, and support India's semiconductor journey?
So I think if they want to come into the semiconductor journey, first they should understand what it means, because it is not like a very simple thing. You have to understand that semiconductor has device physics, and you have to be completely into that. You have to spend a lot of time in understanding and getting the skill set developed in yourself. So that part definitely you have to do. It is not like immediately you can do something by doing a theoretical studies. Okay, it is not about getting some marks in the exams. Okay, it is really developing that skill set and internalizing that full physics into you. Then only you can start this. Okay,
Yes.
so that is what I want to say.
Yeah, keeping our basics straight first. Yeah.
Keeping your fundamentals and basics very clear, and then start understanding, and then you start doing. You will be successful.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you, ma'am. Great advice. Thank you. Sir, what do you think?
Yeah, if they are students, they should first develop an interest in terms of the basic physics, and if there are actually the academicians are actually the college owners, I say please don't take it off the electronics course. Please continue the electronics course. So and encourage the people, and also
More infrastructure
be
on this
infrastructure
labs
that is
should be
required.
that is
set up.
required. Set up.
And more private companies in fact try to set up their own clean room facilities, and are all actually possible. These are all possible. So certainly the enough guidance is there in India. There are a lot of academic people and people like me who are actually having a hands-on experience in the fab. There are many people in the country who can actually guide them, and if they are parents, so please do encourage children,
Support their children.
and also try to encourage them as a product companies, as a entrepreneurs. If there are spouses, please do encourage your spouse to be an entrepreneur into the product design. And as a general also, I think the people should develop that. So we have become an IT engineer has become now as a separate human being itself in India. Okay, so we had a great success actually from nowhere. When I was in child, we don't know anything actually. So there was a great success. So similar kind of success certainly
happen in
possible
this
in the semiconductor field and
Semiconductor
many other
also.
fields. Even pharma, we had a very great success actually. So today we are exporting of so many. So similar thing is possible broadly in electronics and specifically into the chip design. So that general encouragement should come in the society, and people should start a lot of homegrown industries. China, the basic success is actually the even in there was actually we were thinking about this kind of things in our childhood, but somehow it didn't happen in India. So the opportunities should be given. The people should start assembling even at the home and this kind of thing, and so this kind of general awareness and taking up the opportunities, so the public should bring, then certainly we all support the Indian semiconductor mission.
I think teachers and academicians should play a very proactive role in this. They should teach the children that this is not a very difficult subject. Once you
Yes.
go and start developing the skill set, it's possible. Like people go away from this semiconductor physics actually. So that should not be the case. And there are a lot of open literature, open access and all that. People can study there, and they can get themselves skilled into this field. and they can do internships and talk to academicians, do some sort of projects. So
Okay.
that way they can come up.
Yeah. Also, we have covered about design, fabrication, manufacturing, and the skill set and everything. When it comes to the research, the number of papers, research papers that have been published from India, where are we when it is compared with China or US or in this particular semiconductor field? In research papers, if we take that into account, where are we in that?
We certainly have a significant thing, but we are certainly much backward compared to the US. But there are so many institutions which are actually having a active semiconductor research, even in the private colleges like VIT. So they have a good number of faculty who are actually working in this field. So, but the publications, when it comes to the device manufacturing, again, the facilities matters. So the Indian faculty or research students may be having a capability and may be working, but in terms of the infrastructure actually restricts.
Because if you want to work on process, you cannot change the process. You have to follow whatever foundry is offering you. Based on that, you have to design. So that is nothing but like using some tools you are designing. So you cannot have your own techniques, own things. It's very difficult unless you have your own center, fabrication center.
Many people are often curious on what a scientist believe when it comes to faith. So before we wrap it, may I just ask you whether you identify yourself as a theist or atheist or agnostic, or does it affect whatever your faith may be? Does it affect in any way when it comes to your professional or personal life? So if you ask me, like Stephen Hawking, he identifies himself as an atheist, and Neil deGrasse Tyson, he identifies himself as an agnostic, and there are many scientists in India and abroad who identifies themselves as a theist. So what's your faith?
So faith and all I do not know, but see, from childhood we are grown up with seeing our parents, grandparents, and people around us doing involved in so many festivities and pujas and everything. Okay, so with that we have grown up, and one thing I have realized, when we feel something is bothering us and we are distressed and all, if I go and pray, it's sort of like stress buster for me. I cannot express my feelings to anybody else in the world because I don't want. Okay, it is like talking to myself, but I'm talking to somebody and feeling that no, it's gone out of me. Okay, so that gives me a lot of relief. And also, if you say this meditation and all, I strongly believe in meditation, because that is like controlling your own mind. You have so many things bothering you all the time. If you can take up your mind for some time, maybe 15 minutes out of all this and concentrate on something, that gives some control of your mind. That I have felt in my journey. So it is not like dependent on any faith. It is controlling myself.
Irrespective of that, we should be, whatever our faith may be, if we concentrate on meditation and everything, it will give us positive results. Yes.
That is what
Okay.
It doesn't depend on any faith.
Okay. Yeah, great insights, ma'am. Thank you. Sir, what
I agree with the ma'am's view, and she has heartfully answered the question. Whether one believes in the God or not, one should believe in himself and his own existence. And science, because of one's exposure to the science, so probably blind faith is actually the question. So it's one way it is good. Even our new generation also actually questions even the parents, why you are doing this particular ritual, why actually it is following. In fact, I feel that should be encouraged. So in that sense, the science and spirituality actually both are same. So in the spirituality also, actually one actually questions. So it is not a blind faith. So, and personally, I've been associated with a spiritual organization from my almost student time. I've been associated with an organization called Heartfulness, and I daily practice meditation, which actually helps a lot whether you are a scientist or whether you are trying to solve any problem. What you require is a contemplative mind.
Yes.
So as madam said, unless you are already stressed, so if you don't have the contemplation, you will not be able to focus on what you are actually doing it. So one should believe at least themselves, whether they believe in God or not. Okay, and when you are believing, automatically you will actually start helping that. So, and most of the people whom I came across in my professional life, so actually they all follow some other method to regulate themselves and focus on the work which actually they are doing. You can say the major innovations happened when they are in the contemplative mode. So we know like a Madame Curie when she has found the radiation. So it didn't just happen. So it was actually, she was actually contemplating over that for quite some time, and then she found the radiation. So even like Newton energy, it is actually like many people have observed it, but only since he was in that contemplative mind of able to think that there is actually the gravitational force.
Yes.
So for that actually, unless your mind settles, so even innovation cannot happen. So there are quite a few examples, like an Archimedes when he is in the swimming pool, he was actually, so all these things actually requires a contemplative mind.
Okay.
And so these are not accidentally innovations. So the focused mind is actually.
So they have been tuning it some way, focusing on something for so many times that particular moment where that one thing strikes, that happens.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you both for being here and sharing not just your professional but also your personal expertise and everything in the first episode of Swadeshi Silicon. I'm sure our viewers will definitely walk away with some valuable information from both of you. Thank you so much. It's an honor to have you both here in the first episode. Thank you.
Thank you. We also enjoyed the session.
Thank you. It's very honor to be part of this kind of podcast, and we really require a podcast in deep tech areas.
Yes.
And so we really appreciate you for taking up this kind of podcast. And all the best for your future episodes.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, ma'am.